Hi guys, it's Steph here from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. And for those who are very familiar with the series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 19th until the 25th of July. I did continue the MCU watch along with my book club, so we have now seen Thor and the Avengers. So we have finished phase 1. And I did manage to actually read some books this week. So we'll count that as a massive win. I read 4 books this week. I was completing one of my own reading challenges, the Friends Choose My TBR. So Christie from Upside Down Books had picked 4 books for me to read this week and I did manage to read them all. I read a total of 1,557 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 251 books. The first book that I read this week was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This was originally published in 1939. The edition that I had, it was published by HarperCollins and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The basic premise of this book is that 10 strangers are invited to this mysterious sort of manor on an island and none of them really quite know why they're there, and then over dinner a record starts playing and the voice on the record accuses each and every person of hiding a guilty secret. Shortly thereafter, one of the guests dies from cyanide poisoning, and then after that all of the other guests begin to meet their untimely demise and the survivors realize that the killer must be among them. I don't read a lot of Agatha Christie, but when I do go back and actually read through her books, I do enjoy them, even though the language is a little bit different and the setting is probably not quite what I'm used to, and the type of crime mystery that she writes is not what I'm used to. She is very readable. And I enjoyed this, and I like how there's always a twist that you really don't see coming. And then I read What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. This was a 2018 release from Simon & Schuster Children's and I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was just okay. I quite like Becky Albertalli. I quite dislike Adam Silvera's work, so we're finding a happy medium somewhere in the middle. This is a young adult contemporary story with a male-male relationship. We have Arthur, who is new to New York City. He is staying there for the summer while his mother is working in the city, and he is a big Broadway fan and he has these dreams of a show-stopping romance. You also have Ben, who is an NYC native and he really hates when people get involved in his business. And the two have a chance meeting at a post office when Ben is there to mail his ex-boyfriend's things back to him. So you have these two characters, one who is quite jaded and one who is very optimistic and very in-your-face sort of character. And they have this chance encounter and it sort of lingers with both of them, even though they never quite get each other's names or where they're from or how to find each other. And so the first part of the book is how do they reconnect after that? And it's quite cute and entertaining in the way that, you know, stalking people on social media has become a norm pretty much in this day and age. And I quite liked this book up until the 50% mark. And then the whole thing is a relationship based around miscommunication, and that drove me absolutely bonkers. It could have been a lot shorter than it was, I thought, because this book was over 400 pages long. A YA contemporary does not need to be that long. So yes, up until the first half of the book, I was really enjoying it. It was probably a 4-star book, and then because it just dragged on towards the end, I had to drop it down a little bit. So there's nothing actually wrong with it. I think it's a good way of showing how teens miscommunicate all the time and how some people can seem to be more invested than others and so on and so forth. But yeah, it dragged towards the end. Then I read Tiger's Curse by Colleen Houck. This is the first book in the Tiger Saga series. It was originally published in 2011 by Hodder. I originally gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I also dropped this one back to 3 stars upon reflection, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Because I did actually enjoy the reading experience of the book, because I know this is one of Kirsty's favourite books, or favourite YA paranormal books. And I can see why people would enjoy it. I think there are some problematic elements in it. I also think that's symptomatic of the time when it was released in sort of 2011, in that the first 10 years of the 2000s, when we had a whole lot of YA paranormal books a la Twilight, yeah, things are not the way they should be now. So even though it's less than 10 years old, I think YA books in particular over the last 10 years have changed significantly in terms of their tone and their focus and the way that they treat different things, but I'll go into that in a minute. So this is the story of Kelsey, who is an orphan living in a foster home who finds a summer job working at a circus where she comes across a white tiger called Deeren, and she nicknames him Ren. And she spends a whole lot of time with this tiger and finds herself strangely drawn to it. We quickly discover that the tiger is not quite a tiger. Well, it is a tiger, but it's also a man, and that man is an Indian prince who was cursed 300 years earlier. Kelsey is part of a prophecy to help end that curse. So straight away, kind of Twilight-esque. And it does have all those YA tropes of those foster parents who actually seem like decent foster parents, not caring that Kelsey ends up going off to India for the summer. I mean, there's so many other things, but what can you say? I have read many YA books just like this one. The thing with this book, and I have friends like Kirsty who love this book, and I have other friends who absolutely loathe this book and can talk about exactly why in lots and lots of detail, and I 100% agree with both of them. So that's why I'm sitting on the fence a little bit. I suppose the reason that I enjoyed the reading experience though is that despite some of the problematic elements in this particular story, it is a very readable story. It drew me in and I just kept turning the pages. I was quite happy to find out what happened, and you know, it's a lot of finding the next part of the riddle to solve the curse sort of thing. So it's very lockstep. It's not something that has a overly surprising outcome. And there's a bit of a love triangle sort of set up in it as well, but it's ridiculously readable. I think when I was reading this during the week, that's what I really needed. I was so stressed out with work and so overwhelmed with everything that was going on with work. I needed something that was easy to read. And I think this fits the bill. And I think you can read it as long as you recognize that not everything in the book is an archetype that you really want to perpetuate these days. And I suppose as an adult I can do that. That said, I loved all the idea of the Indian culture and the Indian mythology that was woven into it. I don't know. This one I'm securely sitting on the fence, and I enjoyed it for what it was at the time of reading. And the final book that Kirsty picked for me to read was Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was a 2018 release from Hoover Inc. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I think this was probably my favourite book of the week, even though it is definitely not something that I would reach for myself. This is a standalone romantic suspense book, but it is honestly more a psychological thriller than a romance. I mean, there's a lot of sex and talk of sex in the book, but it is more psychological thriller because I spent the entire time stressed out and anxious about what was going to happen next. And even now, just thinking about it, my body tenses up because some weird things happen in this book. It is about Lowen Ashley, who is a struggling writer, and she is approached by Jeremy Crawford, the husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford. Apparently there has been an accident and Verity has been injured and is unable to complete a very famous ongoing book series, and so they're looking to bring in another author to help complete the series. Jeremy invites Lowen back to their family home to spend some time in Verity's office and to get all of her notes so that she can complete the series, and she ends up staying for a lot longer. And while she's there, she discovers this manuscript that Verity has written, and it is her autobiography. And this autobiography is very chilling as it sort of outlines Verity's innermost thoughts and the events of what really happened the day that Verity and Jeremy's daughter died. So the whole thing is around the truth of what actually happened and how Verity was involved. Was Jeremy involved? Why is Lowen suddenly involved in this, what seems to be a family domestic issue? And despite the fact that Verity is bedridden and unable to speak or communicate with anyone else, Lowen becomes convinced that she is responsible for the strange things that begin happening in the Crawford house. This one, do not recommend reading it at nighttime unless you are someone who has a rock solid ability to ignore creepy things. I started this at nighttime and then I had to finish it in an afternoon in broad daylight because I was just getting too anxious while reading it. So even though psychological thrillers are not my thing because I don't like the way they make me feel, this one was really well written and I really enjoyed it. So that is everything that I read this week. Thank you very much to Kirsty for picking my TBR. I got to read some books that I would never have picked up myself, and for that I am very grateful. I'm not sure if I'm going to do another one of these next month. I think I'm just going to play it by ear at the moment. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on reading them in the future. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.